Welcome to Autophobia. I am your host, the creepy journalist. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Welcome. Autophobia. Autophobia. Hey guys, welcome back. So, we are on October 14th. So, how many days is that left? I can't do math. 17 days left till Halloween. My goodness. Halfway through the month, pretty much. So, let's talk about autophobia. Autophobia can also be called monophobia or isolophobia. So, as opposed to people that have this fear, I myself am alone right now. I enjoy being alone. That sounds a little weird, but I am surrounded by people all the time. My job basically requires me to have social interaction the entirety of my shift. So, I guess I appreciate the time that I have to myself by myself. One, I get to spend time recording. And two, I don't have that high overstimulation in my head. Believe it or not, my five senses are drained by the time I get home. I can imagine some of you that have customer service related jobs, especially right now, getting towards the end of the year, you know exactly what I mean. So, autophobia. Autophobia refers to the fear of being alone. The fear comes, and this is something I always come back to, I think it comes from some sort of childhood trauma. In some cases, you may have been left behind somewhere. Maybe someone forgot about you as a kid. I've seen it at theme parks. Children get forgotten, which makes no fucking sense. I'm pretty sure if you're an adult and you went with a child, it'd be pretty kind of dumb to like lose track of them. Now, if you're letting your child run amok and just go around wherever they please, you're obviously not keeping a good eye on them. But we're not here to judge your parenting. We're here to find out why some kids, some adults have autophobia. And it isn't so much the idea of being physically alone, because you can be in a room full of people that you know, but if you are an autophobe and you believe and you feel that you are alone, that is the next closest thing to actually being physically alone, because you don't feel like you're a part of anywhere. Doesn't matter how many people are around you, you feel alone. You believe that you are alone, which in turn, just like many phobias, might cause a panic attack, hyperventilating. There's people around you physically, but that does not mean you're with them. You could feel like an outcast. I can imagine an autophobe maybe presenting something, maybe saying something that causes everybody to laugh at them. Maybe they make a fool of themselves without realizing it, and then once they realize that everybody's making fun of them, that's when the autophobia kicks in. There were kids. I used to work at a school with kids, and I used to work with kids that I used to work at elementary school for a couple years, and the kids I used to work with, they weren't ever special ed or anything like that, but I had to deal with a lot of kids that were, I guess you can say, emotionally not detached, what's the word that I can use properly? Unbalanced, I should say. A lot of the kids that I used to work with would stay home. I'm sorry, not stay home. Would stay at school for longer than normal. And it was a relatively small school with about 700 kids. And of those 700, about maybe a little over half would be left after school for anywhere up to 3 hours. Now, that number might be wrong. I may be off by a lot. But the point that I'm getting at is that kids that I worked with had some sort of emotional issues with them. And I believe these kids, not all of them, but maybe 2 or 3 out of the whole 4 years that I worked there, were autophobes. Because, I mean, amongst other things, they had certain issues, but there were those kids also that had issues with other kids as far as getting along. They wanted things to get done their own way. The particular autophobes that I'm speaking of, they wanted things to be done their way, and as soon as they didn't get done their way, be it a game or some sort of activity that involved other kids, they would shut down. But before that, they would come and try to get approval from me. And when I say approval, I mean as in like getting me to agree with them to get the other kids to do the same thing with them, because I had to supervise the kids and the kids would listen to me if I told them, hey, you know what, you guys are wrong, do it this way instead. They would listen to me. I was one of the adults at the school, one of the yard supervisors. Obviously, I had to be there to enforce the rules and whatnot, but most of the time, I would say 100% of the time, these kids that I'm thinking back on now that could have been autophobes, when they would come and tell me, they would come and tell me in a way that benefited them in order to keep playing with the kids, regardless of whether or not it affected the other kids in a negative way. Most of the time, I would disagree with the kids and be like, no, that's not how you do things. You gotta do it like this and that. And these kids would shut down. They would shut down and they wouldn't talk to me. The reason that I'm connecting these dots together is because I think that it's not that they were alone. A fear, how do I say this? They weren't afraid of being alone. It's just that they believed that they were alone, which in turn caused them fear, because then they would start crying. They would have this look of terror on their face. It wasn't about me disapproving of what they said. It was about me letting them know I don't agree with them, just like everybody else, which means who's the only person that agrees here? Themselves. Who is here by themselves? Them. So that caused them to feel isolation. Thinking back on it, I mean, obviously I wasn't thinking on it at the time that maybe this is something they were going through. But you would try to talk to these kids and they would not listen. At the time, I think what went through my mind was disobedience. But thinking back on it now, I think it's more of a cry for help. Usually is with some kids, unless they're really just spoiled brats. But with certain kids, you'd become invisible to them. If you were the person that never agreed with them, you were basically outcasting them every time you tried to talk to them. You did not exist in their minds, so they wouldn't speak to you. Damn it, that's a grudge if I've ever heard one. But yeah, that's just kids. But I've also seen adults, grown adults, which I believe had autophobia or have autophobia. Because they want to do certain activities with other people, but then other people, maybe they don't want to be partaking in that particular activity, whatever that may be. And just because you say no, you make these people feel left out, and all of a sudden the autophobia kicks in. I can see how this autophobia is a social, I guess, social disorder. Uh, Maybe it might be used by certain people as a sort of manipulation to get autophobes to do what they want, or vice versa, autophobes to get you to do what you want, to do what they want, because you don't want them to have a panic attack, do you? No, so you're gonna do what they want. So I guess it can work both ways, the manipulation card. But at the end of the day, people have it. We need to understand these things. Because a lot of people think it's just, oh, well, they're by themselves. No, you're making them feel by themselves. I also read, in doing the little research that I did on autophobia, that it's the fear of being egotistical as well. I don't want to dwell too much on that because I'm not too sure how that has to do with autophobia. I'll probably have to touch back on this particular phobia after the 31 days is over for October. So, that's it for this one. That's autophobia for you. If you are an autophobic person, let me know in the DMs. What's your daily life like? Are you always trying to surround yourself with people? Are you in denial thinking that nobody loves you, or vice versa? Are you in denial that you're not alone? Let me know in the comments. Shoot me a message. I want to know. Follow me on Twitter at creepyjrnlsm. That's short for journalism. Follow me on Reddit also as the-creepy-journalist. I'm on there as well. So I'll catch you guys in the next one, and stay creepy, my friends.